We are speaking about Finding Romeo with Program Director Mrs. Rayshawn Pierre and Tishanna Williams, Funding Business and Network Officer of the Arts in Action organization. Thank you so much, ladies, for being a part of it. And Rayshawn, I want to start off with you. Thank you. To get a little overview of Arts in Action, because I know Arts in Action a little while ago, but let me know if what I know is correct in terms of like what are you involved in, what are some of the things you're doing right now?
Right. So thank you for having us so much. Since its emergence in 1994, Arts in Action, which is the outreach arm of the University of the West Indies, specifically Department for Creative and Festival Arts, has maintained the belief that arts, all artistic disciplines, inclusive of the carnival arts, play an indispensable role in the process of social, community, and attitudinal change. As a result of that, we have using forum theater, theater in education, designed work that is very closely knitted to the research of social issues in our landscape, all in efforts to help bring sensitization in some instances and awareness, but most importantly, to help people unpack some of the issues that we face on a day-to-day basis.
And I'll bring you in, thanks to Tishanna, because one of the things I really used to appreciate about Arts in Action when I would be engaged by them one way or the other is the fact that you're building suspense, you're carrying people along for a ride, and then you stop and you say, okay, well, what this person should do, what that person should do. Is that part of and parcel of still what is happening with Arts in Action?
Most definitely. Arts in Action is very much community-based, community-driven, people-based and people-driven. And the reason why we're able to carry people on those journeys is because we are using and honoring these people's stories. So the what should the character do really reflects on what you should do. You know, if I can't even count how many times people after workshops have come and say, you know, I feel like I saw my story. Or they will come and tell you about their own personal lives and decisions that they have made and their influence to do that through that same work and through being as engaged as you were when you saw our workshops. And we are still doing it better than ever now because now we're also in cyber theater and we're in the virtual world as well, and just expanding the borders and bringing it home to everybody as much as we can.
And with that in mind, I want to ask you for a little information about Finding Romeo. What is that about?
Well, Finding Romeo is our first cyber theater full-length production. It is the brainchild of Rayshawn Pierre, who I know is going to probably speak a little bit more of it about it. She has been the writer. She has been the director. She is currently, we just actually came from preparing and rehearsing for Wednesday, the 24th, when we will again present Finding Romeo for the regional and international world, this time through Kariman and the Ubuntu Symposium.
Yeah. Thank you, Tishanna. And Tishanna is being coy. Tishanna is being coy. Tishanna was also a co-writer on the project. And like she said, Finding Romeo is a cyber theater and education production, the first of its kind in the region. So that is something that is worth celebrating. But it was designed to speak to directly the eradication of gender-based violence, and more specifically the violence against women and girls, but through an uncommon lens, which is the perspective of men in the Caribbean. So using Romeo and what we know of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, using Romeo as an instrument, we entered into a sort of negotiation, one that would allow us to understand some of the challenges that men in our regional space, in Trinidad, in Tobago, and across the region, some of the things that they face, a man must be and a man should not be, and is seated in an interrogation room where Romeo has committed a crime, but the story takes you through all of the parts of his experience leading up to that point. Like you said earlier, the audience is, Arts in Action's work is very much hinged on audience participation and the audience having their voice. The audience forms the jury at the end of the production, and cross-examining the evidence, they have a say as to whether or not Romeo is guilty, as well as what can we do to to help empower and to build the capacity of men in our region so that we see a shift. We see a shift in the climate, and which is very current now because of what is happening.
But how hard was it to take the process, or the Arts in Action process, and take it virtual, take it to cyber theatre? What was that process like?
You know, it actually happened very organically. We have a brilliant team of graduates and students from the Department for Creative and Festival Arts who have invested themselves into that experiential and explorative process. What we've done is we've used the model that we use in communities and in schools and of the islands and on the international front, and make some changes, employed some film principles, employed principles of radio drama, because the base of our work is theater, and really design something that can be encased in what we call the cyber world. So it was not particularly difficult, but we've had our challenges because our work is live in checking all our boxes, dotting all our I's, crossing all our T's, and ensuring that the same quality and level of work that our communities are used to, that we can also bring to the cyber platform.
Just to add to that as well, you know, Arts in Action is a group where the work is very, very organic. And I must say, and I say this with pride, we have not suffered the malaise of other groups in not handing over or not passing on our knowledge and accepting what is the knowledge of other generations. You know, we're talking about an organization that started in 1994 by Dr. Danny Lindsay and, you know, Mr. Roll Gibbons, who, even though now they are not as actively a part of the day-to-day going out into the communities, they have empowered us in order to do the work now that will make that reach. And then considering that we have other persons such as Christopher Best, Shelby Auta, Emmanuel and Soli as actors who come from even younger generations, you know, we're always on the ground and always in touch with what's going on. And the process was one that when Rayshawn worked, she really opened it up to what is going on right now. So the use of social media in the production, the use of language in the production, you know, the urban language in the production, all of that really comes from being so on the ground and really letting our group members and our team play, that you end up with something that serves the landscape as it is. And this is how Arts in Action has continued to be able to evolve. I honestly believe in my heart, and I say this with full confidence, that if we are to evolve again, you know, in terms of what is happening in.
And we continue that conversation on the other side of the break. We are speaking with Rayshawn Pierre and Tishanna Williams, Arts in Action, specifically about Finding Romeo, but more broadly about the work of the group evolving from 1994 to now. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're speaking with Rayshawn Pierre and Tishanna Williams of Arts in Action. 24th of February, Finding Romeo, actually looking at gender-based violence, intimate partner violence through the male lens is something that I really want to ask about. How did you decide that this is something that you wanted to do in terms of, like, say, well, let me look at it through the fella's perspective?
One of the things we recognize from our research is the fact that there have been a lot of systems around victim advocacy and the like, but we've been having the same problem. I think nothing has changed, no significant shift has happened. And as a team, we decided under the stewardship of Brendan Lakai that maybe what we were doing wrong is not looking at the total picture. And so we decided to look at the issue from the men's perspective. What are men required to do? What are some of the shortcomings and struggles that they have on a day-to-day basis? And so that was the inspiration for Romeo, because we found it essential that if we are looking at perpetrators, if we're looking at a Caribbean masculine complex, if we're looking at regional masculinity, then how can we tell the story? How can we tell the story without really putting in the driver's seat the people who the story is focused on, which are our men essentially? So that was the inspiration for that.
And Tishanna, is it easier or more of a challenge being someone who was involved in the creative process of it in terms of writing, and then coming in as Mama Judy, aka Choppy? What was that like?
Easy. The process towards creating Finding Romeo was a workshopped one. What that meant is that there was a lot of improv happening, a lot of conversation happening. So it really was not hard. The lines kind of came from the work that we were doing in the moment, and the conversations that we were having, understanding that these sorts of people exist. I know women like Judy, So it's really not hard when these people are part of your community and as the role of the actor. So it was cool.
And bless the actor for it. No, this is not the first time that the piece is being mounted. Give me a little feedback about the last one, thanks. Especially from the view of getting audience or participants' engagement in order to drive the piece forward. So you say, okay, well, he's going to turn left instead of right. Were there challenges? Did you get it on time? And is it harder to stay in character because you're waiting on somebody to make a comment or pronouncement like that?
No, no. It's not hard because the team is so sound. And I might seem like if I keep going back to the team, but when you have a team like Arts in Action, this is not that difficult. Yes, you have the technicalities. Yes, you have, you're up to the mercy of the internet gods in a way. But at the same time, once it starts and it goes on, the audience is really wrapped into it. We also have a very active chat that happens while Finding Romeo takes place. So even though the audience might not be able to speak production, because of course we observe theater and production rules and protocols, they do comment in the chat. When the facilitator, Rayshawn, comes back in, sometimes she goes back into that chat and a lot of conversation starts to come out to deal with the why. So they do get to interact. I remember we actually did a Finding Romeo where Rayshawn could correct me. We went about longer just because people kept talking, people kept conversing and wanting to share. So the interaction is definitely because what we're dealing with is so close to everybody's heart.
And one of the things that someone told me once is that so many times we're kind of disappointed because we hold up the mirror and we're disappointed with what we see. But work like what you're doing now helps to bring stories, as you would have said, Tishanna, bring stories and validate them and give them a little more value so that we can go forward in terms of how we try to determine self. But Tishanna, you keep on talking about the team. So Rayshawn, I wanted to ask you to give me some members of the team, please, because yes, we're seeing you as two faces, but who are some of the other people involved in one, Finding Romeo, two, possibly even a little further in Arts in Action?
So the team is led by our artistic director, Brendan Lakai, who's also a lecturer at the University of the West Indies, Department for Creative Arts. We have Chantel Jones, Anna Marie John, Emmanuel Ansolia, Christopher Best, Shelby Outer, Joshua Mudu, Tishanna Williams, who is our marketing and network officer, and myself, Rayshawn Pierre, who functions as the artistic program manager.
And I want to ask both of you all this, please, ladies, in the sense that, and Tishanna, I'm going to quote your close colleague. We have you here and you're hype, but we open you up and we want to close your back, seal you nice before we send you. Is there engagement that is possible after the fact? So after these topics have been raised in a manner that, okay, well, it's not me, but it's something that I can identify with. Do people contact you? Is that something that happens normally? Is that something that you're open to?
Contact us. Arts in Action is no stranger when it comes to giving our numbers, as well as numbers and contacts for hotlines, including the Gender-Based Violence Unit Forum, the TTPS 800 Childline. We are available on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and people do reach out because oftentimes, just like you say, we open you up, and even when Arts in Action is finished and we close everyone back, it still comes to, they go home and they think, and then it's what can I do? And they reach out to find out what can they do. Want to take part via acting. They want to see, you know, what can I do to help? And that is really the beauty of the thing. So yes, people engage, they can. And of course, we have our numbers that they can also contact. I don't know if Rayshawn wants to add anything in terms of, because really and truly, because I'm acting in the show as well, Rayshawn has really and truly been leading the facilitation, and is somebody that is often so touched and so connected to just what has been happening in terms of gender-based violence and violence against women and girls. She is definitely somebody that I think I will pass the rest of this over to.
Yeah.
Just in terms of
Thanks so much, Tishanna. And I agree with what Tishanna shared. The work is so seamlessly steeped in community engagement that one of the things that we try to push in the production is community action. So as a member of the audience, you're not just required to come in and sit passively and absorb and absorb and absorb. The question you must leave asking is, what can I do in my own space, in my own small quarter, in my own community? How can I make the situation that seems to be getting out of control even better? One of the systems that we've put in place is, like Tishanna said, providing resources via what we call our blue card, with all of the significant numbers that people can get into contact with if they have, or if they are having a certain type of experience, or if people are around them, so they can even advise people to get into contact with some of these numbers. And one of the things that we've done is we've left the portals of our social media open so that people can reach out to us and continue to share stories, continue to ask the questions. Have you heard? What is next? What can we continue to do? How can we partner? The last thing I will say is that for the 16 weeks of activism, we partnered with the Office of the Prime Minister, who did a really, really, really good job at community sensitization in the eradication of gender-based violence. And one of the things that we were able to do is to action that advocacy that we talk about in some of our workshops. And so we had people reaching out to us, asking the hard questions. Okay, but I can't do this. What else can I do? Because that is what it is about. It is not about just passive absorption. It is about community action, and Arts in Action remains committed to that single cause.
And I think we have just over a minute more. And Rayshawn, I want to stay with you. Thanks. 1, final words. 2, contact information. And 3, how can people take part or be a part? Is it a Zoom link with regard to finding Romeo this Wednesday?
Right, so you can find Arts in Action, and you can find access, you can gain access to all of the stuff that we are happening in real time on any of our social media pages. We are on LinkedIn at Caribbean Arts in Action. We are on Facebook at Arts in Action. We are on Instagram at Arts in Action TT. Our email address is artsinaction@gmail.org. So you can get into contact with us at any point in time using any one of our social media pages, as well as our email address.
And you can also contact us via phone, 289-4242 or 384-9561 are also 2 numbers that we can be contacted at. And we are always willing and able to help or to reach out. Yeah.
And so Tishanna, Rayshawn, we want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing and continue to do. And on behalf of the entire news team, I'm DK Roster. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.